Good afternoon, Cleveland fans. Today is Wednesday, July 28th, 2021. It's 12:22 p.m. outside of Progressive Field. The Indians are facing the St. Louis Cardinals, as the PA announcer is also saying in the background. The Cleveland Browns training camp actually started today, but not open to the public yet. That opens to the public on this Friday. So what we're going to do today, not going to go inside of Progressive Field, but we're going to walk a little bit toward the Hope Memorial Bridge and also talk a little bit about the team name change and look at the Guardians that are on the bridge as well. So you can see I'm wearing my Cleveland hat, non-branded, but it's got Indians colors, so I treat it like a baseball hat, so it's applicable to either the Indians or the Guardians, right? Either one would work. Right now I'm walking behind the bleachers. Hopefully the music doesn't tune me out. So this is where a lot of fans enter. You can come from the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse to the left field district. That's where the home run porch would be. The Hope Memorial Bridge is to the left of the stadium. You can see it up ahead there in the background. But to get to it, you go left and then it diagonals back to the right. So the stadium is, well, actually that's the queue behind me. Progressive Field is right there, but what I'm going to do is the next video clip I shoot, I'm going to walk to the Hope Memorial Bridge. So it's going to pick up there, and then I'm actually going to do a walk back to this spot as I'm narrating a little bit, because I want to be able to show the city and the stadium coming into downtown as opposed to going away from it. We're on the Hope Memorial Bridge now in downtown Cleveland, just outside of Progressive Field. You can see the stadium in the background. Give a little panoramic view. We have some great shots of downtown Cleveland. Actually, I'm going to stand over here. It's a little bit further away from the traffic. Yeah, if you've never been on this bridge, it has a great pedestrian path that's separate from the traffic. So if you're walking from the West Side Market, you could go by West 25th Street and park over there and then walk over to the stadium. Once before I did a video of a bike path that went down in the flats. If you watch that video, I believe the path goes over in that area. But anyway, let's get another shot of this area and then talk a little bit about the history of the Indians team name change. Now, I am by no means an expert of the name change, but just did some very light research. 1869 was the first Cleveland baseball team. Back then they were known as the Forest Cities. Then in 1889 they became the Cleveland Spiders. That's why when the team was changing the name now, a lot of fans were in favor of going with the Spiders because of the cool logo potential, and it did have some history with the team as far as the name went. And then in 1897, the Spiders signed Louis Sokolexis, and he was the first Native American in baseball. He had a really good season, but then just 2 years later, in 1899, the team finished with a record of 20-134, so that's a terrible record. And Sokolexis only played in 7 games that season, and he was dismissed from the team actually because he had struggles with alcoholism, so that ended his time with the team. And then even after that terrible season, the Spiders were dropped from the National League. So Cleveland didn't have a team for 2 years. Then in 1901, baseball returned to Cleveland, but they didn't have a name for another 2 seasons, or they had some nicknames, but nothing that was really official. Then in 1903, a fan poll was done to name the team, and fans voted for calling them the Cleveland Naps, and that was in honor of Nap Lajoie, who was the star player on the team at the time. So Lajoie played 13 years in Cleveland, but then in 1915 he left for Philadelphia. So when that happened, Cleveland needed to come up with a new name because they weren't going to keep the name after a player who was no longer with the team. And this is where things get a little conflicted. There's some tales out there. Some people believe that the name Indians was chosen to honor Louis Sokolexis. But when you think about it, I mean, he had only spent 2 years with the team, and you know, it didn't really end too well, and I think he died at an early age, probably in part due to his alcoholism. So that's kind of been dismissed as more of a coincidence, so to speak. The more likely origin of the name is because the Boston Braves had won the World Series in 1914, and Cleveland wanted to piggyback off of that type of name, and hence they were named the Indians. And that name lasted a really long time. I mean, 105 years. And now, in a blink of an eye, starting next season, will be the Cleveland Guardians. Yep, these guys up here will be the Guardians. Alright, so now that's where the backstory is done. So let me talk a little bit about sorry, I didn't want to talk over the traffic there. Let's talk a little bit about the name Guardians. I mean, there's not a ton of backstory to it. It's pretty simple. So you can see that there's these statues on the Hope Memorial Bridge. So when the bridge was constructed, these were named the Guardians of Traffic. They symbolize, and I got this from the internet, of course, they symbolize progress in transportation. Now, there's, well, I don't know if you want to count them 4 statues or 2, but there's 1 pillar there, 1 pillar over there, and then all the way where the West Side Market would be at the start of the bridge on that side. You can't see it from here because it's too far down, but there's the same thing, like two of these, 1 on each side. So each Guardian holds a different vehicle in his hand. One of them holds a hay wagon, then there's a covered wagon, a stagecoach, a 1930s era automobile, and then 4 other types of motorized trucks used for construction. So that leads me to believe that there's 8 total vehicles, so the 4 statues, 4 Guardians on the other side of the bridge must have different vehicles. You can see there's one of the vehicles. Let's try to zoom in a little bit, make it a little clearer. And you've got this on the other side. And then on the north side of these statues, it looked like more of the hay vehicles. Let's see here. So let's pan upward. You can see that one right there. And then over there, we've got a similar type of wagon. Now, regarding do I have a preference as to Indians versus Guardians, I'm not one that's going to get into, a big debate with anybody. All I can say is, I grew up with Indians. I love the name. Growing up, I didn't have any issue with it myself, but when they announced it a year or so ago that they were going to be changing the name permanently, I was kind of like, there's other things, to worry about in life. That's not to say that I agree with it at all, but I was more so resigned to the fact, like, oh well, I know some fans will say, I'm not going to support the team anymore. I've never had that attitude with any of the Cleveland teams. No matter what happens, I'm still going to be a diehard Cleveland sports team. So I know that I'm at their mercy, so to speak, and that's fine with me. Now, as far as the name Guardians goes, I don't think it will easily resonate with other cities around the country, but if you're a Clevelander, I think it'll be very easy to take the imagery of the stadium with the Guardians and then do like certain shots and a lot of marketing related things with that. So I think it could catch on, especially if the Indians start winning. And like I said, marketing reasons, sure enough, as soon as they announced that they were going to become the Guardians, like one of the first tweets that the Indians account posted was they were doing fireworks that night, and they took a shot with the Guardian in front and the stadium and the fireworks in the background. So guarantee you that imagery is going to be hammered into your heads all the time. So now we're walking back toward the stadium. Hopefully it was still easy enough to hear the audio when I had the camera on selfie mode there, since I did my whole explanation of Indians versus Guardians from my perspective. Sometimes when I put the camera on selfie mode, the audio becomes a little difficult to hear. Still a lot of fans entering. As I mentioned earlier, today's game is against the St. Louis Cardinals. If you haven't been to downtown Cleveland in a while, you can see all the scooters. Oh, by the way, before I mention the scooters, there's a nice little, I guess you want to call it a park. There's some benches over there you can sit on. Some green grass here. But then, yes, you've got all these scooters. I believe these returned, or a lot of these returned at the beginning of July. And they also have some electric bikes that have debuted downtown, and some other companies may start doing that too. You've got all the competitors going after each other. What are these ones here? These ones are Link. And then you've got Spin. Bird is over there. You've got the Lime scooters here. They're advertising the Asian Lantern Festival at the Cleveland Zoo, which opens July 14th, so that's already open. I believe these elephants here also represent the Cleveland Zoo, so I don't know if it's a sponsorship or maybe they help pay for this little park setup. That's a nice, pleasant spot to sit if you're either waiting to go into the game or just wanting to relax after the game, get a drink of water, or if you're just walking downtown in general. You always hear Tom Hamilton say corner of Carnegie and Ontario. There you go, there's the street names right there. So let's go across the street once the light changes. May need to press the button. Well, this guy's waving us on, but that's not official, is it? I don't know. I'm gonna wait for the official crosswalk signal to go. I've seen this guy around town for many, many years. There you go. Now we've got the official walk sign. Should be enough time to cross, although, yeah, they're going to flag a few of these. Yeah, they stopped me here. Yep. Yeah. Okay. And here you go, Progressive Field. Always a nice picturesque front part of the park. Like, I feel like if you come to any baseball stadium, you have to take a picture, which I've done many times already, so I don't need to do one now. But you have to take a picture, selfie with this in the background. Now, of course, next season they're gonna have to replace everything that says Indians around the park. But I think it'll be easy to adapt the Progressive Field logo with the, oh, they'll leave that the same, I assume, but this part, since the script, the logo is almost identical, and technically, if you block off that, you could just add the word guard in front of it, and you have the same swoosh. So they'll probably just put Guardians, and maybe they'll have it stick out a little bit further, because I don't think you'd want to shrink the font. I'm interested to see if they'll change the Block C logo. I think the Block C is kind of a secondary brand that they've really established over the past 2 or 3 years. And overall, I think it's gone over pretty well. And granted, it's somewhat neutral of a logo, but I saw that when they came out with the Guardians logo, they unveiled a different Block C logo. It's more of a curved C, so to speak. I don't know if they're going to keep that or go with this old one. I would personally keep the old one and maintain at least something, but we'll see what they do on that front. So you can see some of the imagery. You got a Welcome to Cleveland sign over there. Indians team shop. If you remember the Witness banner that used to be with LeBron James, used to be over there. Now they've got one that says For the Love, and they have a basketball with a bunch of different races, and can't see it, sorry. I was going to try to describe it more, but right now those signs are in the way. They have a bunch of different representation of nationalities and groups, but I'm not sure if they're going to keep that or make it ever so changing. Here's where we left you off in that one video earlier before we did the walk. Now I've always been curious if I filmed in this area with a gimbal, if someone would stop me like, hey, you can't use a gimbal here. So we'll see how far I go to that. This is the Gateway Plaza. Interesting that they do have a lot of bicyclists. That's nice to see, who come to the game and secure their bikes there. This is the ticket area. So if you're trying to rush to get a last minute ticket. And I'm trying to not go too much in the area. Yeah, but there's a nice shot of left field district. Wonder what the score is right now. I'll have to check. But hopefully that was a good introduction to the team history if you haven't heard a lot about it. And gave you a general vibe of the team using the Guardians. And we'll see how they update the imagery. Like I said, it's going to be all over the place. You've got a logo up there that says, you know, the word Indians. The big thing I think will be replacing all the fan merchandise. They're not gonna enforce, like they're not gonna say you can't wear Indians stuff into the stadium. You'll still be able to wear that. So that'll probably take many, many, many years to phase out. I don't think people are gonna rush out to buy Guardians stuff, but they're keeping, at least for now, it looks like the same team colors of blue, red, gray, and white. So overall, I think they should transition well. I think in the short term, it'll be more of a thing of getting used to saying Guardians. But long term, I think it'll end up being relatively the same. It'll be our Cleveland baseball team. That was a little bit of my fault. I thought it was a noon start time, but I just, when I was walking by, I heard the national anthem, so it must be a 1 p.m. start time. I should have known that based on how many fans were still trying to enter the ballpark, because if the game had already started an hour, you wouldn't be seeing those big of a lines of people waiting to get in. So you can see a big line down there. It's actually shorter near the right field gate. Got Heritage Park over here. Fun little trick is if you come here in very beginning of the season in April or May, when these leaves aren't grown on the tree, you actually get a view of home plate from this spot outside the gate. Now I don't know, there's probably no spot to get a glimpse. Maybe over here. Let's see. Nah, it's too tall. Yeah, see all the fans. I wonder what the attendance is today, because it seems like a lot for a noon game. I remember some noon games in the past, or a 1 p.m. game, wouldn't get too crowded. So, walking away from the stadium now. Two little things that I found funny, amusing along the way, random things. First off, I have this little note sheet that I made just so I could remember some of the dates and backstories of the Indians team history and their name, like what year the Spiders and Sokolexis and all that jazz. So I had this in my hand earlier as I was walking to the stadium, and you know how people often are looking for scalping tickets. Well, I don't think they really do paper tickets anymore. I don't even know if any exist. I thought it was all digital, but as I was walking by, a few people at different spots had looked at me and looked down at the paper in my hand and were like talking to each other like, does he have a paper ticket? As if it's such a archaic thing to possibly have. Let's see what the bar scene looks like. It's booming pretty good. I mean, it was much more crowded before the game started when I was walking over here. The other random story I was going to tell is earlier when I was waiting for a traffic light to cross and eventually go over to the Hope Memorial Bridge, they have like a drop-off zone in front of Progressive Field. So some car pulled up and was letting the passenger out, and the passenger had a cane. The passenger swings like 2 legs out and just barely like takes half a step out, and all of a sudden the car is trying to like pull off, and the guy is being like dragged at least like 2 feet, and he's like, hey, stop. I'm thinking to myself, like, what the heck? It's like it happened right in front of me. Now we're at the very scenic US Bank Plaza, which is just outside of Playhouse Square. I don't think they've resumed events at US Bank Plaza yet. Well, they may not do that this year. In the past, during the summer, they would do either trivia, yoga, movies, or various other things on this little plaza right here. And there used to be a beer and burger type of place there, but I don't think that's open right now either. Anyway, thank you everyone who watched this again, and hopefully you subscribe to the channel so you can get alerts whenever I post new content or videos, whether it be stuff in Cleveland or various travel adventures I go on. Go Indians, go Browns, go Guardians, go all Cleveland sports related things. See ya.